Got no room, really want a garden but got no space. I thought today we'd talk about some options to make space. G'day folks, Andy here from McDowell Manor. So I thought I'd do a clip for those of us who don't have a lot of room. We might be in a city, we might be in an apartment, whatever. In my case, it's just a tiny block. And I thought, well, don't give up, you can grow plenty of stuff. So this is a front garden that's quite small, but as you can see, it's quite lush. Lots of flowers and things going on out here. I have Australian native bees out here as well. I wouldn't like to try and keep Europeans, but I can manage with stingless bees real good. But let's get back on the topic of what can you do if you've got no room. This is a really narrow side. Now the other thing I'll talk about as well, what I'm saying now is equally true if your soil's really bad like mine. I've got about 1/4 of an inch of soil and then I hit shale and clay. It's awful. So what I do to get around the soil issue is I grew in raised beds. They don't have to be huge, as long as the plants can get a kick off. That seems to be enough. There's another beehive. The main strategy I've employed, you can see, to get extra room is the use of pots. Now my advice would be go with fairly big pots. But it really is amazing with what you can actually grow, especially if you think about herbs and things like chilies. Look at that down there, in pots. I've come up with, well I didn't, I stole an idea from a friend Doug, these big 100-litre grow bags. They're fabulous, and I can actually, even when they're full, I can slide them around, believe it or not. I wouldn't want to try and lift one, but I can slide it. So I use normal pots. Oh look, you can see my coffee is actually getting a few coffee beans. That'll be the first time ever. You can see I've got fruit on a lot of the citrus here. So yeah, pots are a good option. Look at down here. Oh, it's easier to see over here. That's ginger. Yep, just growing in a pot. So think about your pots. Now, pots come in all manner of shapes and sizes. So you've got highly decorative, fancy pots. You've got pots that stack vertically. You've got the grow bag version of pots that I talked about. We use littler pots to start things off. You can see Rosie's, I don't know what on earth she's starting in that one. That's actually a laundry basket, believe it or not. It's cheap from one of the big stores over here. You can see we've actually got some fancy proper pots. That one's obviously got nothing in it. But the other thing I did is we grow vertically, so I use every scrap of vertical space, as you can see from all the sticks around the place. We've got tromboncinos coming, we've got beans coming, and they'll look at that for a pot of ginger, eh? Whew. When it's $50 a kilo over here, that's worth gold. You can see the beans growing up that trellis that Rosie's put in there. So vertical spacing is a good option. You can see I've thrown in bits of trellis in there that we grow passion fruit and stuff on. The other thing I've done, some of you will have seen this before, is I worked out I could hang buckets off the fence. So I just got one of these big S-hooks and stuck a bucket on there, and that's where I grow my sweet potatoes. So you can see now that it's dying back, it actually looks like it might be time to give some of that a harvest. So I'll be very excited to see how that goes. I'll let you know. There's a few more bits of trellis in there that we grew a choco up. There's another pot waiting to be filled. So the pots are a good option. I'll just give you a look at a few more places where I've snuck the grow bags particularly in. See, this is my Japanese garden. I don't often show it because it's got no feed or anything. But you can see it's extensively potted. Now usually you don't even notice that. You just walk past and get the impression of a lovely, almost to sort of subtropical rainforesty garden. Mostly, as you can see, pots, more pots, more pots. The raised beds. This soil is bad. You can see it doesn't, that's where it didn't drain properly. Anyway, you can see it's all raised beds for that reason. It's a compost tumbler. It's another compost bin. Up on top of this big tall retaining wall, now that's taller, that'll be 8 foot tall. It's more grow bags. Now I've still got to plant 2 of those out, but you can see they've got watering system in them. So I don't have to get up there to try and water. That one on the end is dragon fruit. Now you can actually even get a lot of dwarf fruit trees. It's a ruby grapefruit, which are designed to grow in pots. So you know you could use them, put them on a balcony, all sorts of stuff. You can see we've hung another just decorative pot off there. Done the same thing here. This is now out in the building site. It's got the same issue as out the back. The soil up the top of this doesn't hold water. It's dry. It's bloody awful, to be honest with you. But you can see what I did was I resorted to using the big grow bags. They've all got watering system in them, so again I don't have to get up. And I've put a whole lot of stuff up here that you can see there's mulberries on the mulberry. That's all Madagascar bean in there. The reason bits of it is dead, it got so out of control I had to cut it back. The only bean in the history of man that you have to trim. But they're going astoundingly well. They haven't been up there for all that long. The ladder's there so I can get up when I want to cut things like the bean back. But there you go, pots. That's a clump of, believe it or not, super dwarf Cavendish bananas in another grow bag, just sitting on the concrete. As long as I keep the water up, it's all good. And let's not forget, you don't have to grow in dirt. So aquaponics, aeroponics, hydroponics, all of those ponics, in fact, don't use dirt as a rule. I use these little expanded clay balls. You can see the pot or bed in this side case is really quite shallow. Over on this side, and you can see how much greens I'm growing in here. That's kangkong, Chinese water spinach. That's really shallow. That's just a plastic drain I got at a local hardware shop. 3 in a row that just run the length of the top of the fish tank. So the ponics type non-traditional garden is really very useful. It doesn't have to be this big. In fact, years ago I did a video where I took an old 2-foot fish tank I had left over and converted that into a miniature aquaponics system. So, you know, it doesn't have to be big. You can certainly easily get away with growing a lot of your herbs. You can see I do a lot of shallots here, bell chilies, tomatoes are coming back in season. You can see that's got flower on. So you certainly could get enough stuff just to sort of, you know, lessen your need to run to the supermarket and enjoy some of the freshness of home growing. That at the bottom there is a wooden container I had that I could put pots in. I actually use it to stand my worm farm on now. These are pots I use to start things out. That's an avocado. There's another avocado I'm hoping will grow. But I've seen a lot of people use these foam boxes. In our case, broccoli tends to come in it at the supermarket. A lot of times they just throw them out, so they'll be happy to give them to you. They're not terribly strong, as you can see, but they certainly hold the dirt. They do the job if you wanted to use them. Little pots where I'm starting out mango trees. There's another pot where I'm starting out a guabaju, which is a subtropical plant. That's my finger lime. That damn thing is so spiky. I needed to be able to drag it around the yard until I could find somewhere I could put it that it wasn't going to kill anybody. And this is the best place for it. thanks to the pot. Back out in that al fresco area, this is all paved, so obviously I wouldn't have been able to grow anything without using these big pots. I got a funny little wooden one that I made and lined with plastic. Some obviously expensive bought ones from when I was rich and I used to be at work. Not that I was ever really rich, but you know what I mean. There's another one. The old bougainvillea is going well, isn't it? More pots. Pots everywhere, folks. So anyway, that's probably enough. I've toured around the whole yard for you now. Hopefully that has, for those of you who, like me, really don't have a lot of room, or your soil is just pitiful like mine is, hopefully that's at least given you a little bit of inspiration about what you can do to quite successfully grow in limited spaces. Pots, vertical surfaces, you name it, you can use it. Alright, well, like I say, hopefully you've enjoyed that and it's maybe inspired one or two people. That'd be great. Alright folks, you have a good one, eh? Uru.